We met over dancing. We loved to dance with each other, and dancing has been a great part of our lives together. She was so much fun, and she was so bright, and she was so pretty, and she had a lot of guys interested in her, and I had to get rid of them kind of one at a time. But it went on, and we got married in 1960, September 3rd, and I brought her immediately to Raleigh, which she loved her boss. She loved working at NBC, but I got this job in Raleigh at WPTF as an announcer, staff announcer. So I married her and brought her down here, plopped her into a little walk-up apartment on St. Mary's Street. It's still there on the corner of Hillsborough and St. Mary's. We lived on the top floor, and it was a walk-up. I think it was 3 stories. And she was just coming from NBC in Washington and all of her friends up there and her good boss and everything, and being plopped down here in Raleigh, she was not happy about it. She was happy to be with me, though. Nancy wanted to learn how to cook collards because my mother cooked the greatest collards you've ever seen and ever tasted, and Nancy wanted to know how to do that, and so some older person said, well, you get some streak of lean. You season them, you wash them, you boil them, and you have a good chunk of streak of lean in there to season them. So Nancy went to the store, and she had lost the idea. She didn't lose the idea of streak of lean, but she couldn't think of it. So she told the butcher, I would like some striped meat. The butcher said, what? Striped meat? But Nancy adjusted and is as much of a Southerner as I am now, and I could not drag her back up there. She's just been marvelous for me for my whole career. She's loved me and unconditionally, and she's my best friend and my cheerleader, and I don't know what I would have done without her.
So mind-boggling to me, when I went into labor, Gilbert said, well, we'll call a taxi. And I said, well, you know, I feel fine. So here we are. We walk to the hospital, probably the only couple in the country that walk to the hospital to have their first child. Gilbert carries a suitcase, and we walked to the hospital for me to have the baby, and which we did, which was Bert, and which was just a beautiful, healthy baby, which we felt so fortunate.
I grew up in North Carolina, really. That's the memory I remember. Well, my father had passed away, and she was in mourning, and my brother-in-law happened to be coming to visit a cousin of his at Fort Bragg. And knowing how upset she was and in mourning, my sister said to my brother-in-law, why don't you take Mom with you on this trip? Well, they both came with my mom, and like I said, she fell in love with North Carolina. And she said, I'm not going home. She says, put the house up for sale. I'm not going back. And she never did. She didn't speak a word of English. She was a businesswoman. She didn't know it. She was, but she's turned out to be a great businesswoman. And everyone in Fayetteville knew it. Everyone. And they all loved her. Gregory Poole at the time, he and my husband got to be very good friends. And he had this place on Hillsborough Street, right across from Meredith College. And that's where we started our first restaurant. I did baking for the restaurant. I did all the baking, and I was hostess, and I got to know practically everybody in Raleigh. Many, many, many nice people here. Typical weekend night was a real zoo. It was like a circus. Lots of people, lots of reservations, lots of people waiting. The Relica closed down. We sold it, and then a few years later, my daughter approached us with her husband, and that's when he decided to go back into the business again with Marie and Michael and open up the Casa Carbone. When I'm painting, I don't want to be disturbed. I just hide in my bedroom. I've got my easel set up, and I forget the rest of the day. I've always enjoyed painting and drawing, and I always did. I always had papers in my books with all little pictures that I would scribble on. I love living in North Carolina. Love Raleigh. I love people. Till today, I love people. That's why I'm here. Lots of friends. You know, moving to Whitaker Glen was one of the happy things I did. When John and I moved here, and when just before he passed, he says, "I want you to stay here." And of course, I was willing to stay because I enjoy living here. And I have very many friends. I feel like at home. I love it here.
One of the things that really sticks in my mind is Mother and Daddy's 60th anniversary weekend. And we had like the most fabulous time. And I will never forget sitting out on that back area, that porch, and Daddy telling the story of his first date with Mother and all the things that he told her about, you know, she's mine, when, you know, he was with his friend. And to have been able to gather that and have that so that we could watch it, and so that our children and grandchildren could have watched it, would have been priceless. And, you know, I have wonderful memories of it, but I just regret so much that we didn't get that on tape. To hear him talk about how he told Mother that he was going to marry her the first time he met her, to have missed getting that down is just, you know, it's just too bad. It's just too bad that we missed it. And again, we have wonderful pictures from that weekend, and we all have wonderful memories, but you know, those fade and you never really hear it in the person's own words again. So I regret that even though we had a wonderful time, it was the best weekend. We have wonderful memories from it. To have had it on you know, a video would be priceless. It would really be priceless for our whole family.